Hi there, welcome to the archive. So I've been trying to stay out of this whole thing with David, the British actor. But as an African, I'm wearing the Stolen from Africa shirt today. I know we can see it starting to fade a little bit. But I've been thinking about, I know I for sure have had, I wouldn't call it beef. Contention, discord, incongruency. What would be a word for it? Misalignment. What would be the emotions that come up when we think about some of the discourse between the Diaspora Wars? Jealousy, resentment sometimes, fear, shame, guilt. These are some of the things I think maybe might be felt on both sides, but I can only speak for myself as an African in thinking about what it means to be, I was going to use the word indebted, and I use that on purpose, thinking about how much capital, how much resources, how much money Black Americans have been robbed of, right? The majority of us, especially immigrants, are indebted. And yet I think some of that inter-trans, multi-generational trauma, a lot of it is also ignorance. I don't want to conflate it to jealousy, but there is a lot of these other stuff that comes and gets in our way. As I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking of a couple texts. Saidiya Hartman is coming to mind, and thinking specifically of Saidiya Hartman's, Dr. Saidiya Hartman's book. She visited Ghana. What is that one called? I don't remember the moment. I think Dr. Alexis Pauline Gumbs has also written about her experience of landing on the motherland and Lose Your Mother. I think that's the book I'm talking about. Lose Your Mother, A Journey Along the Atlantic Slave Route. And this discord between continental Africans and specifically Black Americans. And I see Black Americans having a lot of the same issues with a lot of other diasporic folk. It can often be like Black Americans versus everybody, right? Versus Caribbean folks, versus British Blacks, versus Black Canadians, versus, Brazilians and Cubans, and I think it feels very much like if we are all her children being the continent of Africa, it feels very much like there's a lot of the same dynamics that we find within sibling rivalry happening here, right? But I'm trying to think of the order of which sibling, which is the eldest, who is the middle child, and who is the last born. And I don't mean to conflate it into that way, but as a visual, that's what it feels like, especially because I've been thinking a lot about sibling rivalry. One of my past videos was on sibling rivalry. But I'm just thinking about even how I've contributed to a lot of ignorance, right? Towards Black Americans. A lot of misinformation, a lot of propaganda, a lot of illiteracy, just not knowing, or if knowing, going and doing the ignorant thing, right? And I don't know if I've ever publicly apologized. I think in I Ego You, I did a lot of public apologies. But I think it is important for us Africans to be able to apologize for our roles, right? That's not to say that there isn't ignorance coming the other way around, because I think when you're on this side of it, it does look different. but that only reminds me that it also looks different on that side, right? And all of us are getting duped in a way. There's a level of being duped. There's a level of divide and conquer that was meant to be here that is still working and still operating, right? Whether it's CIA, FBI, COINTELPRO, infiltrations of folks, starting different rumors about. I saw recently that voodoo is a FBI religion, right? All of these different misinformation that is put out to discredit Black Americans. So I definitely want to apologize on behalf of myself for that. I think also I'm grateful that I am a student of the social sciences, because as ignorant as I can be, and I have been, even if it was acting, right? I think often that's where I lean in terms of like, I'm not new to this. In my defense, I was trying to get a particular reaction to see what was happening, which was happening, and I should have believed it and I didn't. No excuses. But I think I'm lucky to be a student of the social sciences, to have learned some of this history. I'm grateful that I did a PhD, a master's. I'm lucky, I'm grateful that I was able to study some of this stuff. And even that, as somebody who has a master's in sociology, it's a bachelor's in sociology, I've studied Black feminism and traditional African healing modalities. I was trying to think of was it African Bambata? I'm trying to think of it, I can't even. It starts with an M. Molefi Asante. Yeah, I was trying to think of Dr. Molefi Kete Asante. Their works, having read a lot of their works in my master's program, learning a lot about Afrocentric ideals, realizing that Black Americans really have so much to teach continental Africans, if we're being honest, right? A lot of us continental Africans have become very much colonized in the sense of like, we do the Europeans' work for them. We've embodied that European ethos. You can see it happening right now in Ghana. Right? And I think even within Black America, those who think that being gay, lesbian, trans, queer, bi, that believing that these ways of being are inherently not African. So I'm not trying to say that all Black Americans are, evolved in kind of a sense, because you still see homophobia in the community here. But when it comes to reclaiming some of our roots, and particularly the indigenous ways, I think a lot of us should humble ourselves to learn from Black Americans who have continued to do that, right? That work for us. In reading The Conjuring of America, it's by a Black American. And yet, as an African, I'm learning things about Africa from that book that I never learned from other Africans. And I never learned that from other Africans because they were ashamed of it, because they were raised to believe that it was demonic, it was wrong, it was evil. And so as over here on this channel, we've been sharing about spirituality and the different 50 goddesses, spirits, and saints, and honoring some of these ancient ways, I do want to, for me at least, specifically thank Black Americans, the scholars, the voodoo practitioners, those that practice traditional African spirituality or religion, who are not afraid to share these things with us. The Zora Neale Hurston's, who documented and archived it, and were punished for doing so. Those who push back against Christianity for these specific reasons of how it upholds white supremacy and anti-Black racism. Thank you. Right? For being models of freedom fighters. For showing us alternative models of how it could be. Again, I think as Africans, we tend to look at Black Americans sometimes as like unruly, or what are some of the stereotypes we have of Black Americans? Lost, right? And the irony is we are the ones that are actually lost when it comes to knowing who we are. What are some of the other, like illiterate, not as smart, and these are some of the same stereotypes that white supremacy has told all of us, right? And how that really does divide us. I know I myself have grown, but again, even as I was saying, in this era of whatever this has been, the last decade and a bit, despite also doing certain things on purpose to be like, this is what you look like, and I know that people have an issue seeing themselves reflected in me, but this is what you look like. And if it means talking about me and what I look like when right? Again, this is where a lot of the ego came in for me. I'm going to show you what you look like and hopefully you can change you, and trying to change people. And like I've learned that that's not my role. And to be more careful about how I do that kind of a lesson, right? Because all of it was like, I'm an educator and I'm teaching you. And I have more to learn. There's a lot more to learn. But I also want to learn about Black diasporas all over the world, right? And I do think that sometimes gets missed or lumped in. Just thank you. And I'm sorry. I was also thinking about like culturally Africans tend to apologize a lot. Somebody asked me something today and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't remember, but like we're always apologizing. And I think sometimes Black Americans can miss that nuance, right? Or they judge us for being too passive and too docile. And that is part of it, right? You're apologizing for everything. That is part of how we have become robotic. Not just robotic, but like very un-African. But again, what does it exactly mean to be African when there's 56 countries, right? So many hundreds and hundreds of languages. Yeah. I'm still trying to think about how to formulate it, because I know anything I say usually pisses off the majority of. And rightfully so, right? I mean, fair, valid. And yet still, I wonder if sometimes we're hardest on each other and ourselves. And I think sometimes that's what happens, is we are really super hard on each other and ourselves. And we take each other, not for granted necessarily, but just in ways that we could be directing it towards other people for sure, you know? And I hope that we can see more of that, directing the energy where it needs to go and not at people who haven't done anything other than be born in a land that they had no choice, where they were stolen from. So those are just some of my thoughts, but I want to share those poems with you. Have a good weekend and enjoy your Juneteenth. What do they say? Until freedom, right? Until freedom and solidarity.